Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us here on today. It is 12 o'clock noon, Wednesday Central Standard Time. It is Birmingham Bible Church's Winning Wednesday, and so we are so excited about this. Of course, this is a time when we declare and we decree that we are all winners. And so we are winners in Christ Jesus because God has given us the victory. Hello, Facebook. Thank you for joining us on today. For all of you who are on YouTube, on Twitter, on Instagram. What's up, everybody? What's up on today? Thank you for joining us here in this virtual space. We are making the most of this virtual space. We are making all that we can out of it because we want to educate you in any way that we can. We want to inspire you. We want to encourage you. So thank y'all for rocking with us. Thank you for logging on, for sharing, for tagging people, for texting people. And please continue to do so because this is how all of us become better. Well, this month is, of course, Financial Literacy Month. And last week we had someone to come on and talk about budgeting. Tanisha did an awesome job. So please go back and watch that and share that with someone. I know I shared it with a couple of people because we need to learn how to manage our finances. But this month is also Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And for those of you, I mean, it's been in the news, you know, sexual harassment, assault, abuse, rape can happen anywhere. Sexual assault can even happen online. And so this world is getting more and more evil. Pastor said, of course, his series is the end times. And so we are definitely living in the end times. And of course, join us on Sunday on that. But this segment on today is going to tell you how to protect yourself and your loved ones from sexual assault, from predators, from sexual violence. And so on today, we have our expert. She is not new to Birmingham Bible Church, but I'm so glad she's always so open and just always available just to help us in any way that she can. And so we are so grateful for her, all of her contacts, people that she know. And so she's been with us in person as well. But we have with us on today, Miss Alexandria Means. She is actually a domestic violence service program manager for the YWCA. And so I'm gonna let her talk more about that as she introduced herself. But I introduced to you guys Alexandria Means. Hey, Alexandria.
Hey, Lady Pam. How
How
are you?
are you? I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Always glad to come back to this family and share some knowledge. And like you said, I'm always very open to it, wanting people to be aware of what they can do to help themselves, help others. And so I don't take this assignment lightly at all. And but just appreciative, so appreciative of the opportunity once again.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. So tell us, well, tell us, I guess, you know, what you do at the YWCA. We can start with that and then you can go into your presentation.
Sure
And,
will.
you told us about your story before. You can include that as well if you want to, so people know that you know firsthand, kind of what it's like.
Right, yes. So I am Alexandria Means. I am the program manager for the YWCA's Domestic Violence Services. And I have, as Lady Pam was discussing, I have the education, I have certification. However, I also have experience. And what I've shared typically whenever I've met with you all, it initially started during Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I was sharing just how this was something that just hit our family generation after generation after generation. And unfortunately, also finding out that it's been, sexual assault is something that has been in our family generation after generation after generation.
Wow.
And so for me, there was this wake up call that, hey, the generational curse has to stop somewhere. And if I can stop it, if I'm going to be what, you know, sticks a stick in the wheel to keep it from
Mhm.
rolling, then that's exactly what I was going to be. And so I have found myself being just that, and being an advocate in my own way in some instances, and had gone back to school and then decided, I'm going to go and volunteer at the YW, and I was facilitating groups. So I have found myself now there for several years, and have moved up from being a volunteer to getting hired, and moving up into now a program manager. But I had shared with another group recently, and we were speaking more so on the domestic violence issue. And I was explaining how, I met a woman, well, talked with a woman, and she was sharing how she used to put her money in her child's diaper, like not in the diaper bag, not where the diapers were being stored, but she would put the money inside of the baby's diaper so that her husband at the time would not find those funds, because otherwise he would use it to buy drugs, alcohol, or go gamble it off or what have you. And that was what she did. And my question was, why the baby's diaper? Why the baby's diaper? But she knew that he wasn't going to change the baby diaper.
Mm.
And that was the way that she held on to money. But she was in a domestic violent relationship, and experienced all of the various types, various forms of domestic violence in that relationship. However, she was able to have the support that she needed. She did not know about resources like the YWCA or any other programs out there, like the Crisis Center or One Place Family Justice Center that is out there now. She didn't know about those resources and that there are direct services available. But she did have family who was supportive to her. So she had a place to go to that was safe. And now, this person, she's doing very, very well. She's very involved in her church, and she has beautiful children, beautiful grandchildren, beautiful great grandchildren. And,
Wow.
but she knew some things had to change for her as well, and she was able to do that. But like I said, she didn't know about the services that were available, and that person happened to be my mother, and I happened to be that baby
Wow.
that was holding the money in the diaper.
Right.
Was
Wow.
holding the money in the diaper. And so knowing that story, knowing where she came from, knowing where my other family members came from, and then my own experiences, I knew that, yeah, we've got to stop. We've got to make a way for people to know that there are services available, but not only the services, but know what you're in, because
Right.
many people do not know what they're in. They
Right.
don't.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with sexual assault. Many people don't realize, and sometimes it's just a form of the way people cope, and they're questioning, did this happen to me? Did this really happen to me?
Right.
Because usually it's a person that we do know. It could be a person that we're in relationship with, and they still will, commit a sexual assault against us. And so we are literally questioning in our minds, did this really happen? And did this really happen with this person?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so So I hope that today I'm able to share some information with those who are tuning in so that they can, and I know Lady Pam said that how to keep everybody safe. I got a little twist for us today because I'm going to be hitting a target audience. So I'm going to step on some toes, I know.
That's
Um,
fine. We don't
I'm gonna,
mind Pastor steps on toes every Sunday. It's fine.
and I was said, I'm going to get in trouble, but as John Lewis would say, I'm going to get into some good trouble, hopefully.
That's fine. We want to learn.
Okay, so I am going to share my screen, and we'll jump. Yeah, we'll jump right in. So you already see that I'm going to address some taboo in the
Okay.
Black community. So, and as we go along, Lady Pam, if some questions pop up, or you have some questions or want me to clarify something, please stop me in the middle of it, and I will. But yes, we're gonna discuss some taboo in the Black community. I'm sorry. There we go.
Yep.
All right, so we've already talked about me, so I'm not important. All right, so I'm not important, but our objective here is we do want to understand the dynamics of sexual assault because we don't know. In many homes, I know that we're not taught this. We're not taught. Sometimes we're taught good touch, bad touch, but what happens when the bad touch is being done by what we've been taught as a good person, like our doctor. No one talks about that. However, so we want to learn what the dynamics of sexual assault are, and particularly just because I feel like we need to explore this, is the intersectionality of sexual assault in Black girls and women, and learn ways to be a part of the solution towards healing. Because we are probably still, I tell people all the time, we're always at the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to any type of right, any type of civil right, or anything. Black women are always at the bottom of the totem pole. So we definitely want to explore that. So let's look at some of the dynamics of sexual assault. And one of the first stats I want to throw out at you is that every 68 seconds, an American is sexually assaulted. 68 seconds. Mm. So literally every minute within an hour, practically someone is being assaulted. Every single minute. All right. So I put this here in layman's terms. Sexual assault is unwanted sexual contact or behavior. And what I really want you to key in on is unwanted. And that means if something is wanted or unwanted, I have to be in a clear state of mind in order to make up my own decision about if I want this particular type of contact or behavior to happen with me, to me. But I have to be in a position to do that. So that means we really kind of have to explore, first of all, the different types of sexual assault, but then we'll get into understanding, for example, consent as well. Most people, when they hear sexual assault, we automatically, we jump to rape. That's, we jump to that very quickly. That's one of the first things that we think about. But even the attempted rape is considered to be a sexual assault. So if there is, you can hear people talk about, well, he didn't do anything or she didn't do anything. Maybe they were tussling and they were trying to take the person's clothes off to get to whatever it is that they wanted to do. But even the attempt of it is sexual assault. It's a crime, okay? It's a crime. Unwanted sexual touching and or fondling. Again, remember what I said, it's unwanted, but you also have to be in a clear state of mind in order to make that decision. Of whether or not you want to be sexually touched or fondled in any way. And then forcing victims to perform sexual acts. And of course, if someone is being forced, that means perhaps they are being coerced. It could also mean that the person could be under the influence. They could be intoxicated. something of that nature. And if so, then we know that that person is not in a clear mind, or they could be in another vulnerable population. They could be older citizens. They could be children. Hello, they could be children. They could be children. They could be individuals with mental disabilities, and they are unable, to make that decision. And if so, then we know that this is you're basically forcing this person to perform sexual acts. I put on here this Me Too graph because once we start listing some of these things, we start talking about coercion and consent, we do get so many more people to say Me Too. We really do. Because as I mentioned before, a lot of people don't know what they've been in, what they've been exposed to. And once they hear it, then they remember and they think, well, me too. Or either they know exactly what they've been in, but because they were forced, they were threatened, they've held it in for 10, 20, 30 years. And at some point, they are empowered to speak out against it, and they do at that time. And we'll kind of discuss some of that as well as why are people not saying anything, and they're allowing this to go on 10, 20 years. All right. The next couple of slides, I call them big facts, because I think we, as a society, we can get so confused, or either it is, in some cases, we're in denial, or we're trying to protect people. But these are big facts that coercion, okay, person refuses, feels threatened, okay, they are threatened one way or another. It could be with harm. It could be of what the other person is going to say to other family members, the shame that comes with it. And so they are, again, coercing that person. Maybe I'm not saying anything because I'm afraid of what is going to happen. Many people who sexually assault others will always say something about, I'm going to kill you, or I'm going to tell your family that you're a hoe, you're a slut. Okay. So just depending on the circumstances, you don't know what the threat is going to be. You don't know what they may have hanging over that person's head, but it coerces the person to what the perpetrator may say as, oh, well, she laid down and she took it. Okay, but she did not do it willingly. She was afraid of something. And everyone's response to a threat is different. Everyone's response. Some people, if you ever heard of fight or flight, some people's response could be, I'm going to fight it to the death. And there are some people who they may freeze. And so the person who's trying to commit the act will say, well, she wanted it because she laid there. That's going to be their defense, because she laid there or he laid there. And that's not the truth. They were afraid, and their body is telling them, hey, we're scared. We're scared, and the body is trying to preserve itself. So like I said, it looks different. The next big fact is consent. I made myself some notes because I get ahead of myself. I get excited.
That's fine.
I get excited. I start reading. I'm like, make sure I don't miss out. But anyway, so consent isn't given. So let me explain that. It's not given. So I could be with you today, and maybe I did perform some type of sexual act with you. Okay, but it's not given for tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
It's not given for tomorrow. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be willing to do that or anything else with you tomorrow. So you have to treat each incident, each encounter as a new one. And so it's not just given at all. So that's a misconception that can happen in some relationships. Okay, but it's also not a free pass. So it doesn't mean that. So it could be the same day, same incident, or encounter. We're together, and maybe I'm fine with whatever we are doing at that moment. It doesn't give you a free pass to move on to something else. It does not. So please remember that. Okay. And it can be taken back. And so with that free pass, okay, you may have thought that you were going to be able to move on to whatever it was that you wanted to do next. Okay. But even if I allow you to start and being intimate with me for with whatever reason, or even if it's just you holding my hand and you're trying to move into a kiss, okay, I can say yes, but at any point, if I am uncomfortable, if I am uncomfortable, I can take that back. And I'm expecting my decision to be respected. Okay. However, what we see will happen is, again, there could be coercion in there. And I can recall once being with a young man, and he was like, "Well, we here now." And I remember stopping and questioning myself, like, "Well, we are, but I don't want him to think that I'm
Right.
lame, or I don't want him to think that I'm." And so I began to question myself. I began to question my own values, began to question, um, my own boundaries that I had previously set. And he was laying the pressure on very heavy. But if I say no, if I say yes and then I say no, then that means that we need to stop whatever it is that we're doing, because I'm no longer consenting to this. Okay. So the other one is not consent if you're afraid to say no. If you're scared to say no, then that means, nah, this is not consent. This is not consent, because you're afraid of something. And I've shared with you all before, if you may not know the reasons, but trust your gut. If that stomach is flipping, you're nervous about something, you're just uneasy about it, then trust your gut, because your body is telling you something is not right. And we don't need to try to figure out what that is, but something's not right. So some stats I want to kind of go along with this is just for you all to know, 8 out of 10 sexual assaults are committed by someone the person knows. 8 out of 10. When people typically think of sexual assaults, they think about the different shows that they've seen on television, the different movies they've seen, and they think, oh, well, somebody's going to jump out of the bushes and they're going to attack me, and that's what happens. No, that's usually not what happens. Like I said, 8 out of 10 is someone you know, it's a significant other, it's a family member, it's a family member's friend, that family friend, the neighbor, it's someone you know, it's somebody at the church, it's someone someone you go to school with. This is not a stranger, it's somebody you know. Now, think about the number I just gave you, but look at the next number. 48% of sexual assaults occur at the victim's home.
Wow.
So these people are, yes, they're close to us, or either they're in very close proximity. And remember, I was saying, 8 out of 10, this is a family member, this is a neighbor, somebody at the church. Think about it. These people are the people that likely would come into your house. They are the people that would likely would come to your house. And so this is where the sexual assault is happening. It's happening literally in homes. Now, if you look at the stat I have here, it's really specifically for children. It's specifically for children. Victims under the age of 18, 34% are under the age of 12. 66% of them are between the ages of 12 and 17. That's a lot. That's a lot. That means our babies are being attacked very early. They're being attacked very early, and we will see as we go on how this plays out over time.
Hey, Alexandra. Okay, great. I wanted to ask you one question as far as a stat.
Mhm,
A lot of times, and maybe I'm guilty of thinking this as well, that,
mhm,
women are the ones who are mostly sexually assaulted. Do you know a
mhm.
percentage of maybe men who have been
Yes,
assaulted?
men are sexually assaulted, and I think, let's see, did I write that one down? I can definitely let you know. But yes, men are
Yeah,
sexually assaulted, and don't think that they aren't.
right.
I know that some people believe that men can't be, but yes, they can. They
Mhm.
can be sexually assaulted because remember what I said too. I mean, it could be contact, and it is not always. I think a lot of times people think that, well, and I should have given this trigger warning ahead of time. If we have children that are listening, if we have children that are listening,
Right.
if this is not age appropriate for them,
Right.
please guard their ears. And then if this is triggering for you as you're listening, take care of yourself and step away if you need be. But men can be sexually assaulted because it can be a fondle. It can be a touch. Okay, but it can also be penetration. And it could be done by a female. It doesn't have to be done by another male. It can be done by a female. So either sex could, or either gender can be sexually assaulted. They can be. Okay. You have any other questions along
Oh,
those
no,
lines?
no, ma'am, that's good.
But then the effects of sexual assault that we can see that take place, and these are only a few that are listed. Um, and it's probably the majority of what we see when people are sexually assaulted. And if it was a very, very physical, aggressive attack, then we can see some physical injuries. Sometimes, it could be small injuries, like I say small, meaning that in comparison to the other injuries that could happen to a body, it could be a scratch. It could be a scratch versus there could be damage to internal organs. Okay. But physical injuries, many people definitely have PTSD. What is different about those who experience sexual assault and end up having PTSD is when victims replay what has happened in their mind, it's as if it is happening all over again. I was telling someone yesterday how literally if you've ever been in the presence of someone who suffers with PTSD from any type of trauma that they've experienced, you can sit there, be having a conversation with them, and for whatever reason, it looks like they just, glassed over their eyes, they're looking off in the distance, and their body begins to respond as if that assault is happening in that moment. They believe that they are in the same surrounding area, that that person is present, and that it is actually happening. I've seen someone go and run and hide. I've seen someone get up under something. You can see them break out in a sweat, start screaming, or what have you. But it's real, and because it's real to them. They believe that it's happening at that moment. Depression. Definitely one of the major ones that we see. And of course, like panic attacks, people cope with the sexual assault sometimes using substances. People become alcoholics, they become drug addicts, because they are trying to numb their emotions. They are trying to not remember what happened to them. And so this is the way that they're trying to cope. Some individuals that may receive sexually transmitted diseases. Unfortunately, some people have pregnancies behind it. Disassociation, that is really what the body is doing in order to save itself. And it literally is trying to disassociate. You may hear people call it personality disorders. And, my name is Alexandria, but I may tell you my name is Rachel and I'm 5. Okay. But I am 5-year-old Rachel who's trying to protect the 2 or 3-year-old that experienced whatever the trauma was. Like, I wasn't big enough at the time. That I may tell you that I wasn't big enough at the time. Now I'm big enough I can take care of her. And that wasn't the best example, but that's kind of, of what it is. Like literally disassociating yourself from what happened. And again, that's the way that the brain is trying to protect itself or protect you. So those are some of the effects. So then why are we not telling? We know that, this is happening. Why are we not saying anything? Why are more people not coming up? I kind of alluded to some of this earlier, is that we're just fearful of the repercussions that will happen. And I know somebody on the outside is looking in and saying, well, it can't be that bad. It cannot be that bad that you can't tell. Okay, but what happens when you know that this is your father who's married to your mother, who is the breadwinner of the home, who is paying for you to go to college, who happens to be the pastor at the church? So it's all of that is going through this person's mind, perhaps. So what happens when if I do tell this, you know? And we'll get to some of the other things that are said for in some households that take a person to these questions, like, why would I even write? Just not being believed at all. And not being believed, maybe because where you were located when it happened, what you had on when it happened, and they're like, well, yeah, I can't believe her because, she does this, she does that. So just not being believed in general. We may not tell because we're trying to protect some others from experiencing the same harm, because they may have threatened, this person may have threatened to hurt somebody else, to do something to someone else as well. There is a level of shame that comes along with having a sexual assault. People, victims have disclosed that they feel dirty, they feel filthy. And so to share that means that, I'm ashamed of who I am. I'm dirty, I'm filthy. That is how they feel. And so they don't want to tell anyone else about it. They may feel shame because, oh, I'm too educated, I never should have fallen prey to that. So many different reasons. Or just being judged for what they had on, for what they should have known. They should have made better decisions, or just clearly uncertainty about what it means to tell. What does it mean to tell? I don't know what this looks like. I don't know who all is going to be involved. I can't say this, and I'm strong enough. I can handle it. I'll be okay. So I'm not going to say anything. All right. So that leads me to just think about what we just said, the whole judgment thing and shame that's associated with it. So likely what is going through many victims' mind is, I should not have had that outfit on. I should not have gone to that building. I should not have been in that place. I knew I shouldn't have been in that room with him alone. Well, the truth is, it doesn't matter. I've told victims before, you can stand butt naked in the middle of the street and no one should touch you. No one should touch you. They don't have a right to lay a hand on you. And so if anyone else is out there and they're listening, if you are the person who's experienced the assault, or if you are a family member, friend of an individual who's experienced sexual assault, it is not the victim's fault. Children who are molested, children who are raped, it is not their fault. There is nothing that they can do to provoke someone to assault them. There is nothing that any woman, any man, any person with any type of challenge or disability, there's nothing that warrants anyone to assault them. It is never, ever the victim's fault. Never. There's nothing you can tell me that says it's their fault. There's nothing they could have done, nothing they could have said, could have worn. It is not their fault. It is not. All right. So if that's the case, so exactly why is this such taboo in the Black community? And I tell my friends, for why? That's what I say, for why? Why is it so taboo? All right, so I'm gonna try not to be so sciencey here. But anyway, we have such institutionalized and internalized racism that has happened. And I remember reading a story. It's called the Reese Taylor story. And I want to say that there's a documentary about her, but I believe it was like in 1944. And she was walking home and she was attacked and she was sexually assaulted by several men. And of course, when her family found out, I think her father was ready to kill everybody. But to be honest, this is where Rosa Parks really came in on the scene. She was such an activist. And I know a lot of us grew up, oh, well, it was all about the bus. It was all about the buses. But really, it wasn't all about the buses with her. That's just what, the majority of what we've been taught. She was involved in this story with trying to bring light to what was happening to Black women during this time. And unfortunately, that was in 1944. And we're still to this day having to seek protection for Black women from sexual violence. We are still doing that. But we'll dive into each one of these areas as well. But this historical trauma, and when I say historical, I mean what has been ingrained in us from generation to generation to generation as far as the Black woman is concerned and sexual violence. And I am saying more so women, because the stats are higher for women, much higher for women than they are for men. And as I mentioned before I got started, we know that there are issues. There are issues with Black women being at the bottom of the totem pole for every right, it seems. And lastly, the culture of silence that has been developed because of the institutionalized, internalized racism and the historical trauma. And so, again, it is taboo. So let's look at it. So with the institutionalized and internalized racism, many of us know the story of slavery, but what was happening was Black women, the slaves, the Black slaves, they were being raped. They were sexually assaulted on a daily basis. Okay, because one, the men needed to know that their slave masters were the owners. They were the ones who were in control. And it created for us that dominance over the Black man, and of course for the female, the fear. We were afraid. Who wouldn't be? And so that fear was instilled in us. All right. Now, not only that, but then if we also look at, and again, because think about how slavery, and now if you start thinking about law enforcement, that person, again, with authority here, law enforcement, and then the treatment that has continued in a different way is this is a different systematic way in which racism is being shown to us. And then what happens when we are the suspects of crimes and they pull out whatever weapon of choice and you see people being beaten, okay? You see people being tased, and and now of course people being shot as well. So the relationships of Black and law enforcement is definitely nowhere near where it needs to be. And then I'm not sure if you guys knew, but it wasn't up until the 19th century that rape laws were race specific. And I spelled that wrong, anyway. But race specific, because at some point Black women couldn't be raped. That was in the law. We were property. We couldn't be raped. We were not seen as human. Okay, so we couldn't be raped. All right, so then you go and you look at, now here's this historical trauma that we have. All right, so, and I'm going to try to explain this in layman's terms. When we have this group of people who have come out of slavery, there are certain traits that we start to take on. And I think people, they think that, oh, it's in your DNA. No, but there are different traits that kind of get passed on. So what happens is, and I'll use this as an example, I may have, say, maybe all of my grandmothers from that slavery period. I'm saying grandmothers without using all the greats. They were sexually assaulted. So then part of my behavior as that grandmother coming out is, I do have low self-esteem. I do bow down to men or people of authority. So when I have my children and my children have children, I teach them those same traits, that I honor and respect authority, that I bow down to whatever this man who's in authority, I bow down to that, which means No, I understand. I have no rights to my body.
Mm,
Okay, I'm a possession. I'm to be used. Okay, I'm passing that on down. It
mm,
may not have happened to my children, and it may not have happened to my grandchildren, but
mm,
I'm still passing down that trait. So here comes that self-esteem or the low self-esteem. Here comes like the depression, all of that that they are witnessing.
mm,
They're witnessing that. So the issue that we have with that is that can make them vulnerable enough so that it then could happen to them.
mm,
Because if I'm dealing with the low self-esteem, depression, and no one's taught me about boundaries, and then I'm more susceptible to be a victim. Okay, not just of sexual assault, but many other things. Um, but I'm just trying to show you what that historical trauma looks like.
mm,
And because of what we were supposedly made to do, then now Black women are stereotyped as hypersexual.
mm.
Just all across the board, Black women are hypersexual. And that is not the truth. Every Black woman is not hypersexual. Okay. But it is one way that the historical trauma has been passed down. So then, because of what's happened, because of what we've been taught, here comes the culture of silence that we have taken on. Okay, so we do a lot of minimizing. We do a lot of minimizing of, let me move this out of the way. Okay, denial about what has happened. In some cases, we don't know what's happened because it's all we know. It's all we've been taught. We recognize the resiliency of Black women. We do. Okay, but that strong Black woman can get us in a lot of trouble because we can take on so much that happens to us until we are carrying a load that we were not meant to carry, and we will continue to pass on these generational things. So that strong Black woman shouldn't need to always be so strong. She needs to take a minute and say, hey, listen, this happened to me, this is hurting me. Okay, but then we also have the power of the Black church. Baby, pray about it. God can handle this. Yes, I am spiritual. Hello. And I believe in the power of prayer. I know that God can do anything. However, I have to remember oftentimes too is we're on this earth and we're living here. We're bypassing through here. But we also have to remember that God has given man knowledge in the areas of science, in the areas of medicine. And while I'm praying, I'm going to the doctor to check on my body, to see what is happening. Okay. But then we're also taught, think about everything that we've been taught about leadership, about authority. And in the Black church, we have been very strong on leadership and authority. And so whatever is said by a pastor, the deacon, the elders of the church, we follow suit. But what happens, as I mentioned before, when they are the person who's committing the sexual assault, again, we're going back to the slave mentality, which is property. And I'm laying down to them. I'm laying down to serve them. Another issue that we have is we do want to protect Black men because they are being attacked in so many different ways. And if I do this, oh my goodness, he has a son. He has to care for this person. He has to do this. He has to do that. And so we won't say anything because of us wanting to protect Black men. And many of us who are single, divorced, or what have you, is we already saying there are no men out there. And then something like this happens, I can't say anything. I won't say anything. All right, then the lack of self-care. Examples meaning the lack of other women who may have experienced this coming forward, or maybe even maybe they haven't experienced this, but helping others learn what are the boundaries, what is it that we should be doing. So I'm going to speed on up, break the untruths
Hey,
here.
Alexandria,
Uh-huh.
let me back up to that screen. I've heard about,
Uh-huh.
inheriting, that's okay, I keep talking, inheriting several traits.
No, no.
granddaddy did this, daddy was like this, as far as personalities.
Mhm.
But I did not realize that that's also related to sexual assault. I mean, I never thought about that.
Mhm.
Just how, and I think about even, let's say in my family. So, my great grandmother, grandmother, mom, they're pretty, quiet in nature, probably kind of like that submissive type. And, just the way you explain that, I never realized that. But let me ask you this: could the
Mhm.
same be true of, let's say, people who are in power? So I
Yes,
mean,
the
yeah,
opposite.
yeah, the opposite. So these
Uh-huh.
people in power who were used to, raping Black women, and then now that trait has been passed along to,
Mhm.
CEOs of companies, or
Yes,
or teachers,
definitely.
or yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So on the extreme, because all of us are being taught something at some point. And so if we're being taught to be submissive, or there someone has to be taught to be in power.
right.
Somebody has to be taught to be in power. Definitely. Right. And that's exactly why we want to have these conversations, so people can recognize, okay, where do I fall?
Hmm.
Where do I fall on this spectrum, and what can I do? What can I do? That's
And how
that's
do we and how do we teach our, so can I teach my daughter so that she doesn't develop that, lay
right.
down and take it mentality? Do I
Right.
teach my sons, hey, you are powerful, but listen, this is how you need to act in the presence of
Yes,
others?
exactly.
Okay.
Right. And so we have to teach boundaries. We have to teach what consent is. We have to teach respect. I mean, there's so many things that we have to look at. I want to say I've shared this with you before, but sometimes with the way that we teach our small children, like boys and girls, we teach them differently. We train them differently. We train our boys to be aggressive. We train them to be dominant, and we train our girls to be prissy, to be classy, to be soft spoken. Who wants that loud girl? So
Yeah.
it right. And so we have to look at how are we really teaching our children? Because you should be teaching, if you're going to be loud, okay, what are we being loud about?
Right.
If the child is loud, groom it. Maybe that's the next attorney. That's the next
Right.
that's the next advocate. That's the
Yeah.
next president. So you take what they have and you groom it, and you groom it for good, you know?
Yeah.
But that is good. That was a very good question. So I did put up here some of the untruths that we have heard through the years. Some of these I've heard. I literally have heard growing up. You just a fast tail little girl. Okay. And I'm not saying this, obviously I heard them all directed at me, but just growing up, I could hear them around me.
Hmm.
That has absolutely nothing to do with something that someone does to them.
Hmm.
Well, what did you do to provoke them? You shouldn't have been there in the first place. When I was sexually assaulted, the first thing that came to mind was they're gonna say, well, you shouldn't have been there no way.
Hmm.
That was the first thought. It
Hmm.
wasn't that I was hurt physically and emotionally. No. My first thought was you shouldn't have been there in the first place. It goes back to um, what I'd heard before, what I had learned before. Um, of course, the one what goes on in this house stays in this house. So if the sexual assault is happening in the house, I'm not supposed to say anything either.
Hmm.
You are his wife, and your body is no longer your own. That is not true. And I'm not talking about situations. I know some guys out there, well, look, she can't be holding back on me. I am not talking about where someone is just holding back because they're mad. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm referencing more so where this person is making you commit acts that you are uncomfortable with, that you do not want to do. Dress a certain kind of way, and you're not comfortable with that. That's sexual assault. Okay, you shouldn't have them clothes on. Well, it doesn't matter what kind of clothes I have on or don't have on. It does not warrant sexual assault. Oh, now it wants to do everything else. All right. So now I gave you some just general statistics, but these are specific for Black women. Okay. For every Black woman who reports rape, 15 don't.
Mm.
15.
Mm.
15 don't say anything. When I say report, I mean that's at least, they've gone to the police and they've said something.
Mm.
Okay. 15 of them did not. Now, there is a small percentage, though, that will tell later. They will tell later. One in fourth, 1/4 of Black girls, 1 in 4 really, Black girls are sexually abused before the age of 18.
Mm.
Now, I want you to remember that these numbers are always those who are willing to report. Okay. 35% of Black women experience some form of contact sexual violence during their lifetime. So that could be a touch, where it could be a full rape. 40 to 60% of Black females have been subjected to coercive sexual contact by age 18. 40 to 60. That's high.
Yes.
That is high. Look, by age 18, these are our babies. These are our babies. 30% of Black women with documented histories of childhood sexual abuse were sexually assaulted in adulthood. So remember what I told you, once you've been exposed, and there are a combination of things that happen as to why you are at risk of being re-victimized. Okay. So 30% of those that are documented. So like that one that was documented, remember, it's still 15 others that aren't documented. Okay. They likely have been sexually assaulted as an adult. Okay. And I know this true because I know several of them. So what do we look for of persons, if you recognize a family member behaving differently or things that you might see or friends or whoever, are they isolating the victim? Are they taking the victim away from the group? I like to, with children, you need to be accountable for every child in the room, every child in the house. Who missing? Where they going? If they outside, who's still outside? Where are they? Can I see them? My mama used to tell us, we were out doing something. She needs to be able to look and see us. Mm-hmm. Okay. If we don't see the children, if we don't see them, we need to set eyes on them. We need to know what they're doing. If we have even a friend, if we're out, we're hanging out, we're at a club or something. Okay. Where is she? I don't see her. Mm-hmm. But most of the time it's not going to be in the open. But the person is also going to look to someone who's easily accessible. Well, guess what? Family and friends are easily accessible. We're accessible. We're right there. Mm-hmm. We're right there with them. And they go through this process of grooming. So they are building trust with the person that they are trying to sexually assault. Because if I build trust, if I get you to like me even more and trust me, guess what? I'm going to start having you to keep some secrets. And it might be general at first. And they may even, like I said, it'll be general at first. And then the secrets will, become more detrimental, really. But even a desensitization to touch, meaning I may hug you as any other uncle would, as any other cousin would. I'm going to hug you in that way. And yeah, that's not going to bother anything, supposedly. I know the direction I'm trying to go in, but we move from that to, I don't know, now maybe I'm like rubbing your entire arm. And then I'm holding your hand, but I'm just like lingering, holding your hand until eventually I'm kind of just touching other body parts. But remember, you trust me. So nothing, this isn't going to be anything different. And eventually it's, you trust me, don't you? Well, doesn't that feel nice? Doesn't that feel good? Or especially if they're smaller children, you may hear some of that type language going on. And eventually other areas are touched, other parts of the body are touched. And remember what I told you is at some point, I believe like our bodies tell us something's not right, but that is when that person is going to start making threats. Start, telling them, this is our secret, you can't say anything about anybody. Well, you are going to be the one to get in trouble. People will tell children that you will be the one to get in trouble and not me, because you're the child. Or if it's an older child with a younger child, you're going to be the one that get in trouble because you weren't supposed to be doing it, and you're not supposed to be in this place, no way. Okay. But look for the warning signs in your family members, your friends. If someone seems depressed, if you knew what their behavior, their personality was like before, look and see what is it that they're doing that's different. They don't want to hang out anymore. They don't want to. Maybe you notice that they want to lay in the bed longer for longer periods of time. Maybe they're eating, they're not eating. Maybe they've decided on self harm. Maybe the use of alcohol or drugs. Are they getting in trouble with alcohol or drugs? Nightmares, that like that PTSD might be kicking in, and you have no clue. But those are some things that you would need to look for to know that something with that family member or friend something's going on. All right. So some solutions to healing. First of all, listen, as a Black family, we've got to acknowledge that this is happening. And we know it's happening. We have to acknowledge it. And when people step forward to tell their story, believe them. It's only, to be honest, there are only about, I think it's it may be 2 to 8% that are false reports. There are only 2 to 8% that are false reports. Believe the people that are coming forward and be patient and compassionate with them, because it's hard for people to come and tell their story. You don't know the reasons why they've held it in, if they've held it in for years. You don't know why it's taking them so long to heal. Okay? If they haven't had the support they need, yeah, well, likely it can be difficult to heal. Mm-hmm. Okay? And remind them that it's not their fault. Because it's not. There's nothing, absolutely nothing they could have done. Nothing. This is all on that person who is committing that act. And then be informed about some of the resources in your area. Share that with them. And then when you know about it, if you are a person who's experienced it, speak up about it. And if you need help being empowered to speak up about it, find that trusted person that will help you walk you through that process. And then make sure that, you help somebody else to go through the same traumatic experience. All right. But at the end of the day, this is all I wanted us to do. Break the cycle of pain. Because if it's pain for one person, it's pain for a community. And it means it's pain for a nation. So we have to break the cycle. And that the only way we can do that is if we, receive this knowledge and this awareness and we do something about it. And in the Black community, we need to get rid of that logic of what happens in this house stays in this house. I need for you to scream from the top of your lungs that something is happening in my house. Something's happening here. So thank you so much again for letting me share with you all. And definitely if you have any questions or anything, just give me a ring. But I really, like I've mentioned before, I have a passion about this. I want people to know what's out there. Understand what you're in. Understand some of the resources that may be available as well. And for sexual assault, domestic violence, you can always call the YWCA, One Place Family Justice Center, as well as the Crisis Center that's here in Birmingham. And, gratefully, in each one of those areas, we have nurses that are on staff to help if there are some physical injuries, if exams need to be done. Those forensic nurses, they're there to help and support. And they have advocates as well to kind of let them know what their rights are if they're in those cases. And if there has been sexual assault, hey, I've said it before, it's a crime. You can press charges. Even if you're not ready for the person to be arrested, start a paper trail. You can still do a police report. Go to the if you want to, to get an arrest warrant, you can go to the magistrate with that documentation. But otherwise, you can still do the police report and hold on to the police report. You can. But it's the way to stop this.
Yeah, Alexandria, thank you so much. This was so informative. You've said a lot of things. I want to piggyback. I ain't gonna take too much of your time, but I want to piggyback on something you said about those signs. You talked about post post-traumatic stress disorder.
Mhm.
Um,
The
you know,
effects of it.
yeah, and I'm thinking from a, even from a church standpoint, a lot of times you have people, who attend church, maybe they're on your job, you work
Mhm.
with people, and something about them is just off. Or maybe, they're the person that stands out, they're mean, they have all of these
Mhm.
outward signs. And can you speak to them? Because, I feel like if something traumatic has happened in their
Mhm.
childhood or their adolescence, sexual assault, then it kind of manifests itself in different ways as an
Oh
adult.
yeah, definitely. Definitely for sure. Remember that whole strong black woman syndrome
Yeah.
that we have. It's like I can still go move mountains over here, but the mountain that I'm sitting under,
Yeah.
I can't get from under it. And because and that frustration comes out. That frustration can come out when I'm interacting with other people. And
Right.
so if we have someone that we know, all we know is that they always seem frustrated. They always want to argue. They always, well, you remember I told you, be patient, be compassionate, offer
Mm-hmm.
grace,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And you still be nice. You can, hey, I can say this because it's church. Um,
Yeah.
but you have to draw people with love. Like you always show love.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you have an idea of what someone may have gone through, what I have shared before is if you have information about services, sometimes you can just lay a pamphlet on the table
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have to direct it at anyone. It could be in a break room. It could just be a part of your literature that you share, like at your church or something.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, what you're doing is you're putting information into this person's pathway for them to pick up, to read about. This Winning Wednesday is one of the ways in which you are reaching people like that. And I'm not saying that you target people. Don't go target people who always seem
Oh,
frustrated.
oh,
Frustrated. But you're doing exactly what needs to be done is getting information out there so people can see, hey, one, I'm not the only one, but there's a name for this and I can get help.
right,
And I can get help. And
right.
I can get help. But just as a daily practice, when people are frustrated, irritated, or seeming irritated, everybody has a story. There's a
Mm-hmm.
story behind that.
Mm-hmm.
And which is why we have to be gracious and compassionate with them. And maybe they will tell us the story and maybe we can offer support. We can offer support to them as well.
Yeah, that's good. You're right, Alexandra. Everybody has a story.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess my last question, I kind of been texting out there just to kind of make sure no one has any questions or,
Okay.
but I guess in the ideal world, it would be helpful to say, there are certain ways you can protect yourself. So, and I know that's not, but how can we as parents, protect our little ones? I know my husband and I, we, especially when our children were younger, because may not could speak up for themselves,
Right.
we did not do sleepovers, because we may have known the parents, or at least we thought we knew them, but we
Right.
didn't know who they were going to have over their house. So, is there anything that we can do to protect our children?
So we can do as much as possible. What I will say is, people who want to commit these crimes, they try. They're very creative in the ways that they try to get, and they put themselves in positions where they are accessible to who they want. And
Mm,
so that's where you have those children in school settings. That's where you have them there. The family friends and the family members and all of that. What you can do is empower your child with knowledge.
mhm,
That is one for sure. Empower your child with knowledge as they are aging. Teach them about their bodies, about boundaries, about respect, and have relationship with them So much so that when they come to you, they will be willing to be transparent and tell you anything. And now I know this happens sometimes in Black houses. You come and then there's an explosion about, there's an explosion. The parents are fussing, and that is not what the child needs, because the child's not going to come and talk to you.
Right.
But sit down and talk to the child about what is happening, find out how they feel about it, even ask them, what do you think needs to happen? But listen, I wasn't even always that person to listen to my children. I would fuss at one more than the other because he was getting everything. But I had to learn, you got to sit and you got to talk to them. Our children are smart.
Right.
They are. But then also as a parent, we have some responsibility as far as making sure we know where our children are. And
Right.
specifically the smaller children. There's no reason why our smaller children should be out of our sights for long periods of time, and we're right there together. One of the adults needs to know where the children are, what they're doing, and whatever research we can do for activities that they're going to be involved in. Asking about safety protocols. Does your child's school make sure that who signs them out? Does somebody make sure they sign out? Do they ask that, do I bring my license in? I mean, those are some things to consider with our children. But remember, our children are going to get older. They're going to be adults. And whatever we put in place now, we hope that it will carry with them, because a sexual assault against them now, it will carry with them as well.
Right.
So we've got to do what we can. And lastly, definitely pray. Pray and pray some more. that God's hedge of protection is on them, that the blood of Jesus does cover them. Because at the end of the day, he's the only one who's going to see and know all things. Yes. We can only do so much as parents, but empower and give them the tools that they need, so that they will know when something is wrong and they are willing to speak up and out about it. Or even when they see it happening, that they can speak up and out about it.
Yeah. And I like to tell, my children, especially the two that are kind of out and about, as an adult, protecting yourself. If something doesn't feel right, God has given us the Holy Spirit. If there's something don't feel right, then, move yourself quickly. I'm thinking about, and I know there's a long list of things that you can do to probably protect yourself as an adult, for women who get pulled over by police officers, or you have to have a meeting with that boss, leaving the door open, there are certain things I'm sure as adults that we also need to do to try, like I said, to try to make sure that it doesn't happen to us as an adult. But is there anything you want to add to that to give the adults some advice,
Right. Well, you're exactly right. As an adult, and I'll use me as an example as a female. My mom, she always fusses about where are you this time of night? I'm divorced. My boys are, how old are they now? 28 and 21. And they don't live here. One is in school and one lives in Madison, Alabama, and they aren't here. But one of the things that we can do is to make sure if we're dating, if we're dating someone, is whatever, like you mentioned before, our gut feeling, whatever it is we feel about a person, trust it, trust whatever that is. But also what do you believe in? What are your values? What are your boundaries? Now, if you first don't know what they are, you don't need to date anybody right now. You need to find out what that is. Find out what that is, excuse me. And then as you are interacting with others, make sure you enforce your boundaries. Make sure they respect you. And we, I almost sometimes hate this to tell people, oh, you need to park in lighted areas. Or if you know that you're going to be leaving a building late at night, have somebody to walk with you, or have somebody to watch out for you, or what have you. Because the truth is, I shouldn't have to alter my life for the criminal behavior of another. I should not have to. However, I'm going to try to be safe, and that is what I'm going to do. For young ladies, I always recommend going out with a group of people instead of going by themselves. Go out with a group of people. And I really say that even for young men, but it's go in groups. That's safe. Having activities in groups, that is safe. It's safer. Let me say that it's safer. It's not, nothing in these days is the safest, but it's safer. So going out in groups, it is. If we came together, we leaving together.
Right. That's right.
We leave it together. I can return back to the house, and your mom and your dad ask me, well, where is, because they didn't come home. I can't do that. I cannot do that. And let's be each other's keeper.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be each other's keeper. And I leave. Sometimes I may not tell my mom. I may not tell my sister where I'm going, but somebody knows where I'm going. I've told a friend. I've told somebody where I'm going. So always have. Technology is great. Send me your location.
Yes.
Send me your location. Where are you? Where you going? I have a friend now. Depending on what she's telling me she's doing, I'm like, send me your location. Send me your location. And, going out after dark. Send me your location.
Right.
Send me your location. I need to know where you are. Something is happening. But we have to be diligent with that. And our young people have to understand what safety really is. It is not that I'm not trying to keep tabs on you for GP. No, because I could be doing other things.
Right.
I want to know you're safe.
Right.
I just want to know you're safe. And to those parents out there, leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
Leave it at that. Because once you start in on that, well, I saw you went over to, they're going to stop. They will stop. So just know where they are.
Right.
Just know where they are. And if there needs to be a discussion about something, then bring it up then. Right. But don't go down the rabbit hole when nothing has happened. You just don't like where they are. Yes, but you want them to be in a position where they can live their life, but you also want to have that trust that they'll come to you and they will talk to you.
Right.
Yeah, we need that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alexandra. I am not going to hold you. It's a great discussion. You gave myself a lot to think about. We have viewers that are watching. So thank you, viewership, for watching us today. We're going to have just a couple of upcoming announcements, and then I want you to come back. Won't take but a minute. And you can tell people again how they can reach you and give us some closing remarks.
Oh, sure will.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching us on today. Listen, don't forget on Saturday. Let me make sure. Don't forget on Saturday, we are having our small group. This is a private group. So please make sure you send us an email at smallgroups@bhambc.org if you want to attend. We have a joint session and then we break out into gender-based groups. So great fellowship time. And so we can also talk and chat also about other things that are going on with us pertaining to the lesson. So please make sure you send us an email at smallgroups@bhambc.org. Also on Sunday, we are having our in-person service on April the 17th. We are so excited about this. Get a chance to see everybody. We're going to give out free Easter eggs for the children. We're going to have free diapers. Remember, everyone, you can get 2 diapers and 1 container of wipes. Going to have breakfast snacks. We're going to have a great time together. We're going to make sure that everyone is safe. So make sure you send us an email at welcomeback@bhambc.org. That's welcomeback@bhambc.org so that we can get you guys in appropriate seats and make sure you guys are safe. Of course, don't forget, we are on oneplace.com. If you desire to get some great teachings from Pastor Mason on the go, please go to oneplace.com, do a search for his name, Dr. James H. Mason III, and then you can see all of his messages that are archived. Singles, we had our very first singles private page video this past Saturday. It was great. It was awesome. Of course, it is private as well. So make sure you send us an email at singles@bhambc.org. That's singles@bhambc.org. Listen, when you email us, make sure you tell us your Facebook name. Need your Facebook name so that we can locate you and find you and add you into the group. You don't have to watch watch the video at that moment, so you can go back whenever and watch it. But it's going to be great. It's awesome. It's awesome. This Saturday, we meet with the married couples. So we're going to upload a video for the married couples. Please make sure you send us an email at marriedcouples@bhambc.org. That's marriedcouples@bhambc.org. Of course, we are getting ready for our marriage and singles retreat. Going to have a little fun. Going to have some conversation. So we're going to do this in Atlanta. So the date is June the 25th. We're going to be at the Mayor Max restaurant in Atlanta, Georgia. Great Southern cooking. And so we're going to have a great time. Please make sure you send us an email at mnsretreat@bhambc.org. That's M as in Mary, and is spelled out, S retreat at bhambc.org. And then for those of you who want to continue to learn how to study the Bible, how to teach the Bible possibly, please make sure you email us your interest at timothyclass@bhambc.org. That's timothyclass@bhambc.org. Also, make sure you tell us your Facebook name. Make sure you do that. And just a couple of announcements. Listen, don't forget our prayer room every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 a.m. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 a.m. That number is 727-731-0433. Different ways you can give to BBC. Of course, you can go to our website at bhambc.org and click on ways to give, and you can give that way. Today, we had Alexandria on today. I'm so excited about the great information you gave us, Alexandria. Wonderful information. Of course, please join us next week. We have young lady, Shanique Jeffries. She's with the Autism Association. She's going to talk to us about autism. So trying to give y'all some great topics, some different topics to kind of help our population. And so, Alexandra, thank you for joining us. Thank you for everything, your willingness, your openness. You gave us some things to think about. Things that I didn't think about, just wasn't putting the pieces together, but especially that historical trauma. Never thought about that, but thank you for that. Please let our viewers know how we can contact you. Again, your email address as well.
Yes, I am on, you can find me on Instagram, of course. I'm under A Means to Live. And then you also can email me at Alexandria at A Means to Live at Alexandria at meanstolive.com. I'm sorry. I was going to give you the wrong one. And then you can always reach out to Lady Pam. She knows how to reach me. She knows how to reach me. She always has really great things to offer to the community. And looking at the announcements, listen, this church has, wherever your state is in life, they've got a program or something for you to go through with it. So I'm like, hey, you may want to get connected. You might want to get connected to the church, for sure.
Thank you so much. We're trying to meet the masses. We're trying to meet everybody where they are. So, and this pandemic has taught us we had to shift a little bit, and everything don't have to be in person. Don't have to be in person. People don't want to get out maybe, or, they want to attend, but, gas is high, and, I got to gas up the car and go all the way across town. But yeah, so awesome.
And you can reach so many more people as well. Everyone doesn't have to come to your building per se. I lead a small group, and we have people in the small group that are from, I think maybe including Alabama, probably 5 different states, literally 5 different states. So this virtually is awesome.
It is awesome. Well, please leave us a couple of remarks just as we close.
Yes. So as we close, I really want people to remember that you can be the solution to a lot of the issues that we have in our country. And one of them definitely is sexual assault. Sexual assault is preventative. Break the cycle. For the Black community, break that cycle, speak up and speak out against it. And if you are a person who's needing help, reach out for help, because there are people who are wanting to do this for you.
Amen. Yes, ma'am. All right, I'll just put your information in our Facebook and on YouTube so people can reach you. So listen, guys, y'all make sure y'all reach out to her if you have any questions, if you need some help. This is a support system for you. A support system is in place. There are programs for you to help you. So thank you for joining us, Alexandra.
Thank
Hope you have a
you.
great day, and we'll see you till next time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you all again.
All right, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.